and a chair of the Canal Place Preservation and Development Authority. And we moved to this larger room because we knew that we were going to have some folks joining us who are non-board members. And what I'd like to do may be a little unusual, but I would like to have them maybe introduce themselves. Start with the people that are here in the room with us, and maybe start with Commissioner Atkinson.
Bill Atkinson, Allegheny County Commissioner.
Laura Freeman-Lager, I'm the town administrator for the Commonwealth Report, which the heritage area is expanding to.
Very good, thank you.
Lady Blue Ball Wester, Regional Director for Secretary Annual Service.
Very good, thank you.
Ronnie Sorto, Regional Director for Center Van Hall.
Very good, very good. I'm gonna, CC.
Hi, I'm CC Donovan with the Ecologics Group. We are working for Canal Place on the River Park Canal Place project.
Okay, thank you. And Kim, can you help me identify, without my glasses, I can't see everyone that's joining us by Zoom.
We have, I'll start at the bottom, Stephen Mackel, sorry.
Yep, no problem. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Stephen Mackel. I'm a partner with SB and Company.
Okay, and then we have Adam Snyder.
Hi, Adam Snyder from the Maryland Office of Attorney General.
And we have Mike Mudge.
Michael is a board member, thank you.
And we have Tom Vitanza, if I'm butchering anybody's name, I'm sorry.
Right, you said it properly, thank you. Yeah, I'm the Montgomery County area rep from Maryland Historical Trust, and as the, I guess, next most western county, I'm tag teaming with Mr. Reed today. So I'm unofficial MHT,
Very good.
observer.
And then we have Doug Reed.
Well, hello everybody. My name's Doug Reed. I'm a former member of your board. And if you have any issue with that young lady who is your executive director, I hired her. I love her, and she is the best executive director you'll ever get up there.
Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome.
Very good, very good. All right, well, thank you, and thank you for the members of the board for being here. And Michael, I know you're with us in Zoom, and thank you for the other members of the public for joining us. I think, as always, we have a busy agenda and hopefully a very informative one.
Are you going to have Ray and Ashley introduce themselves?
Or
did they already do that?
No, Ray and Ashley introduced themselves last time. Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Yep, we're good. I think we're all good. All right, first order of business are the meeting minutes from the previous meeting, the May meeting. We have two sets of minutes. We have the open session. I would entertain a motion to accept those.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, I think that was Ray on the motion and was Brad on the second. Okay, I will open it up for any questions, comments. All right, seeing none, all in favor of accepting those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, stand approved. We'll move on to the minutes of the closed session. I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Stu, a second?
Second.
All right, any questions, comments about those sets of minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, stand approved. All right, next on the agenda are the financials. I think I'm going to turn it over to Dee Dee, and you want to go through this, or you want to have Nicole go through this? All right, Nicole, you're up.
All right, I just want you to note that nothing is final for this fiscal year yet, so totals are not official, I guess we'll say. For revenue, I can report that all currents are current or ahead for May and June rent payments except for one. Legal counsel has conferred with that tenant, and the agreed date for full payment for back rent is October 1st. We did receive the annual payment from the Fairfield Inn in May for $138,315.54. which also includes a late fee of the payment, which was due in November, as well as the city's contribution for the expansion plan of $25,000. The unofficial revenue brought in was $206,000, or $206,910.64 for May and June. For expenses, the total would be $181,725.43 paid out over May and June in both general and special funds for fiscal year 25. Of things to note, payroll, object codes 0100 and 0200 series on your spreadsheets. They are showing accruals and realignments for both general and special funds, so that's why June especially seems larger. Our phone, which is 0302, and computer security 054, were brought current as the vendor had to split our account to accommodate the budget line items, so they only got caught up in June. We did need to make some improvements to shops in the train station that account for approximately $14,600 over various object codes. We did make a state payment for the enterprise budgeting system of over $12,000. And we did pay Ecologics over $16,000 for River Park May and June work performed. Final amounts of all budget items can be seen at the end of the column on your spreadsheet. So those are the totals for the year, more or less.
Thank you, Nicole. Are there any questions? All right, I would entertain a motion to accept those financials.
So moved.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Second?
Second.
Oh,
Good.
second.
How about if I credit Ashley with that? Any additional comments or questions?
That knife is twisting.
We'll let you in there, Tim. All in favor of accepting those financials, say aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you very, very much, Nicole. Audit report for fiscal years 22 and 23. I think we're going back to you again, Nicole.
I'm gonna let Stephen take care of this part because he's the official auditor.
All right.
Alrighty, well, good afternoon, everyone. As Nicole mentioned, my name is Stephen McCall. I'm a partner with SB and Company, and we have served as the auditors for Canal Place for the audits of the June 30, 2022 and 2023 fiscal year audits. Did put together a brief presentation for us just to kind of walk through really the purpose of that presentation, just to give you an overview of our audit process as well as the results for the audit. So I can share this presentation and walk through. I know you all have a packed agenda, so I will, try not to spend too much time going through, but if any questions or anything as I'm going through, right, feel free to stop and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you as we go through the presentation. Again, I'm Stephen McCall. I serve as the engagement partner, the overall engagement partner for the engagement. We always have two partners involved in each one of our engagements. So Bill Seymour is what we call our advisory partner. He's responsible for, kind of technical review of the financial statements, as well as also providing, any advice and assistance throughout the audit. So, we work closely with Dee Dee and Nicole, to get through the audit and get through the numbers and everything. So, we talk to Dee Dee and Nicole on a regular basis. Scope of services, again, we were engaged to audit June 30, 2022, as well as 2023. And then we always make it important to note that we are available for year-round consultation. So not just during the audit time. We do not extra bill, for phone calls, consultation, advice, or anything like that during the year. We much rather have those conversations right when there's questions about accounting and transactions like that, so that we're all on the same page by the time we get to the audit and get to year end. Here again, because I don't want to take too much time, we like to put all the important stuff right at the beginning of the presentation. So we do plan to issue unmodified opinions on both sets of those financial statements. So unmodified is a clean opinion, and that is the best opinion that we can offer under professional standards. So that will be clean opinions for both your 2022 and 2023 financial statements. We did not uncover nor were we made aware of any instances of fraud as we went through our audit process. And we did not discover any material weaknesses in the internal control structure. So if there was anything from that standpoint, we would be required to communicate that to you all as governance. And again, nothing of that nature that we identified. And again, we did receive full cooperation from both Dee Dee and Nicole going through the process. So they were able to answer all of our questions, provide support for all the transactions and items that we did want to test and review during that audit process. Won't spend a ton of time here, just a pictorial of our audit approach. We do have what we call a risk-based audit approach. Really begins with us understanding, Canal Place, the entity or the environment in which it operates, understanding the control processes that allows us to identify where those significant risks are to the organization, both internally and externally. And then what we do is we use that to kind of drive our audit process to make sure that our audit process is specific, to making sure that we're comfortable that those specific risks that we have identified have been mitigated throughout that audit process. We do that in kind of two ways. So one, we take a look at the overall control environment. So this is the tone at the top of the organization, if you will. So making sure we evaluate right the integrity of management, the communications of ethical expectations, things like that, understanding what management is doing to identify risks and then the controls that are in place to help mitigate those risks. And looking at how information is communicated within the organization as well as externally, and then taking a look at how monitoring of those controls that are in place are happening. So we will go through, read the board minutes, again, discuss with management, read policies and procedures to get an understanding of where each of those areas are, and then provide an assessment of where we think those are either being effective, right, areas for improvement, or not effective. And going through our assessment, we did conclude that each one of these areas is effective. After we've done that, then we take a closer look at what we identify to be the key processes. So these would be, through which each of those transactions are actually being processed. For example, if you take a look at treasury, right, making sure that cash is being reconciled, on a periodic basis. There are no reconciling items and things like that. Looking at your purchasing process, to make sure that invoices are being reviewed and approved and everything like that before, before those payments go out the door. So again, we do take a look at each one of these areas, and then going through that process, we did not identify, anything here alarming or that we thought, was not being handled appropriately. As I mentioned, one of the things that we do, we are available for year-round consultation. It also, going through the process of looking at the controls also allows us to be able to provide, recommendations, either whether that's recommendations on control activities or recommendations around just kind of business, business improvement type of items. I think we, presented a few years ago when we did the audits for 19, 20, and 2021. I think this recommendation was, kind of similar to what we had then. Here, just our recommendation, we know with, some of well, first of all, we know, Canal Place is a, small shop with, Dee Dee and Nicole there. And then with Nicole, or I'm sorry, the team not having, kind of that designated accountant there. One of the things that we do recommend or suggest, and again, know it's a small shop there, but do suggest, potentially the hiring of an additional employee, right? Which that would help in a couple of ways. One, with having such a small shop, it's kind of hard to maintain segregation of duty, right? To the extent it's possible, Nicole and Dee Dee have control procedures in place to make sure that things are going through appropriate reviews so that the same person is not, both approving and processing a transaction. Again, we know that becomes increasingly difficult, with the small number of employees that are there. So that would be a recommendation just to help with some more of that segregation of duties, right? To make sure that those controls and that separation of those different items, right, can remain in place. And kind of the second part to the recommendation, again, with the accounting and on the audit side, there are certain kind of year-end accounting type of items that need to happen to be able to prepare the records for an annual audit. Again, we do know that Canal Place currently doesn't have, a CPA or, kind of a bookkeeper in place to be able to do those items. We worked with Nicole over the past years, and Nicole has been able, right, to understand and learn and be able to get, those accounting records to the place that they needed to be prepared for audit. And again, going through having no issues with the numbers and things of that nature, right? We're comfortable, that, with the proper training, Nicole could be that person and that resource to be able to make that happen. So our recommendation here, right, is maybe suggest maybe, hiring or contracting, with someone with an accounting or, bookkeeping background to be able to help prepare some of that information for the audit, or to provide, training to Nicole. Again, we do believe Nicole has a skill set to be able to handle it and take over those duties with the appropriate training. Finally, here on the financial statements, won't spend a ton of time. Again, I know these results are pretty old. You all just had the fiscal year 2025, kind of audit numbers, or sorry, the financial numbers you were taking a look at. But here, your numbers for 23 and 22, continue to see an increase, right, in those current assets. Those are primarily your cash and any receivables that are there, receivables for grants and the ground rents that are there, your non-current assets, mostly your fixed assets, the building and other assets that are related to Canal Place. Your operating revenues, those are your state grants as well as the rents for each one of the, for each one of the ones there, and then your expenses primarily on the salary side. And then finally, as we go through the last couple parts here, just our required communications to you all as governance. So as I mentioned, we did not have anything of a negative nature to report to you all. If we did, this is where we would communicate those. Again, the nature that we need to report. As I mentioned, clean audit going through, full cooperation, from the management team and being able to get through everything. And then finally, again, even with, Nicole not having, right, that accounting background, being able to work with her, and she's put in a lot of work to be able to work with us to be able to get the financial statements to a point that we're both ready for audit, and to a point, as you can see through the results, that we've come out with a clean audit.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions regarding the information you just shared?
Is this the final recommendation? He's not done yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna get, so we don't have to.
Yep, and sorry about that. So just, I guess, the note just on the final timing. So again, we are pretty much done with the audit. I would say in about a 2 to 3 week time frame, we will have the actual issued final financial statements that you all will have, and the numbers won't be significantly different from what you've seen here.
All right, thank you again. Any questions? One more. All right, very good. Thank you. All right, the National Park Service report. Okay, before I get into that, I did not introduce our new member, who is Ed Wenshoff. We're here with Chris Stevens, who has been attending these meetings for a long time, as I understand. And Ed, I'm so glad that you're here, and maybe you can take a moment just to introduce yourself to our group.
Okay. Thanks for the invitation today. Yeah, I'm Ed Winshoff. I'm typically the Deputy Superintendent for the C&O Canal as of August of 2024. I've been the Chief of Law Enforcement there for 12 years prior to that. And Tina Capetta, our Superintendent, retired at the end of May, so I'm filling in until further notice. I don't know what further notice means, but that's what I'm doing at the moment. Thank you. And you want me to?
Absolutely,
Give
go
any
right
other
into your
updates?
report,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, so our superintendency is vacant, and then we have a few other folks that retired this year in our maintenance division. So we are down a few folks park-wide. Our staffing and interpretation and the other program areas is still consistent. We are looking at trying to bring ones, we are allowed, there's a hiring freeze across our agency and all the agencies of government except for some public safety positions. So we are filling like my vacant position of the chief ranger, the chief of law enforcement, and then a couple other positions in our only ranger ranks, our law enforcement ranger ranks will be filled. We are going to try to also hire some seasonal positions in interpretation and maintenance. We haven't done that for a few years, but we'd like to bolster our maintenance staff and interpretive staff at all of our visitor contact points across the park, Cumberland to Great Falls. We had some flooding there in May in the park, so our maintenance crew has been busy park-wide. That was a park-wide flood, from up here to the DC end. A lot of towpath repair that has been underway. We had one washout up here that took the towpath out in Old Town. And our quick repair for that was a little footbridge that we had that we were able to put across the aluminum bridge. And that is, so you can't drive across it or anything right now, but you can walk across it without any kind of dangerous detours out on the 51. So we are working up a plan to repair that, and did receive a generous donation last week. Ben Hellwig, our deputy superintendent acting, went up and accepted $10,000 from the Mountain Maryland Trails Group to help us with the repair there. So we're going to have a time frame on that yet, but planning on doing that. Chris,
Yeah.
that's all I have. We've been spending a lot of time on flood recovery. And, but it's been in a busy summer visitation wise and for our protection rangers and maintenance. So it's been a busy summer since full time. The visitation hasn't slowed down. It's a year.
All right, well, thank you and welcome. We hope to see you a lot.
Okay.
And we've always appreciated Chris's contributions as well. All right, any questions, Ed or Chris on their report? Thank you. We will go into old business. The Heritage Area Management Plan update and boundary expansion. You'll recall at our last meeting, we talked a little bit about it. So appreciate the comments from the board members on the draft plan. Dee Dee and I actually spoke with Augie, who is the primary architect of the management plan, and we had hoped that we would see some of the updates prior to this board meeting. I think they're still working on it, and ask Dee Dee for more of an update on that.
Right, we did submit all the comments that you all made on the plan, and again, thank you for that. I spoke to Augie this morning. He's gonna have the final draft prepared by the end of July. We need to get some photos that he wants to insert into the plan, and then we will send it back out to the board and anybody else that wants to look at it for a final review before we send it out to the public and have a public meeting on it. So it's getting there. It's getting there.
It's a process, yes.
Yes.
All right. Any questions on that? We're a little bit behind, but there were a lot of suggested changes. Again, we appreciate all that you folks did to make those changes. Very positive ones. All right. So the, I think, deep dive for this meeting is the River Park update presentation. I needed this for me, taking on the role of chair, but as I started to really try to understand the enormity of the River Park project, it occurred to me that because it's a very large project, there are various stages, that it would be great to have a tutorial for the whole board. We have some new members, Ashley's new as well as I am. So that the intent is everybody leaves this room with the same information. We're all on the same page in terms of where we've been, where we are now, and most importantly, where we're headed and how we're gonna get there. So with that kind of a base understanding, I'm gonna turn it over to DD and staff, and I will say they have worked really hard on this. And I appreciate the effort that they have made in putting this together. So, DD?
Sure, y'all should have a copy of the presentation in your board packet. Of course, we have the PowerPoint. I'm going to start at the very beginning. In 2017, we had the public meeting to see if we should even go forward with the River Park concept. Ashley presented it at that meeting. I called her at 5 o'clock in the morning and I said, can you speak at this meeting? And she was like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything prepared, but you did a great job. And look where we are today.
As always.
Yes, as always. So we had the public meeting, and then in 2018, we put out an RFP for a feasibility study and a concept plan. That was through ARC. ARC has been huge through this entire project, and of course, I always thank Senator Cardinal, he was senator, and Van Hollen, and April Delaney and Trone, and now Senator also Brooks for their contributions to helping us with so much of this funding. You get this. So the concept, I'm not going to, you all can follow along, I'm just going to touch on highlights. We proceeded with this project because we had done a few economic impact study through West Virginia University. We got some extra money because we wanted to be able to justify this project to the public. We already knew it was a great idea for so many reasons. But the results of that study came back saying that we were going to attract an additional 1.3 million tourists to Allegheny County. We will attract new businesses and expansion opportunities for existing business, create additional jobs for the area, improve quality of life for residents of Allegheny County, improve the river water quality, and create a positive economic impact for the region with an estimated $41.7 million in annual tax revenue and $219 million in direct economic impact, which is pretty big for this area. So the next slide is just the major milestones. Again, in 2019, the feasibility study was completed. In 2021, we did a boundary survey and property owner identification and hydraulic survey for the river park. In 2022, it was proposed that we would do a mitigation banking plan for the river park, and that really didn't pan out for the entire project area that we wanted, so we went back to square one. In 2024, we obtained a $6 million congressional earmark for the trails and land-based amenities parking lot for the River Park project, and graciously the state of Maryland matched that with $1.5 million of operating money. In 2024, we completed a preliminary engineering report, and also that's when we put out an RFP and got Ecologics as our project manager on board. 2025, where we are right now, we put out an RFP for sediment testing, and we had water loggers installed, but we lost all those water loggers with the May flood. So we're trying to figure all that out right now. Also in 2025, we put out an RFP and awarded the engineering and design for the land-based amenities to GD&F out of Altoona, Pennsylvania. And that's kind of where we are today, and I'm gonna let Cece, after this presentation, talk a little bit about that. Next, I wanted to go over the funding that we have received. We've applied for, again, a lot of funding through ARC. We've gotten federal earmarks. The city of Cumberland and Allegheny County graciously contributed out of their funding to this project. We received, through the State Office of Tourism, EDA money. Maryland Heritage Area money has played a big part in a lot of this project. And so far, we've been approved, actually had grant funding approved to the tune of $8,903,965, which is pretty doggone significant, I think. Next slide. Now, the next slide that we're going to be looking at is, although we've gotten a lot of the money approved, this project has been a process. There's been a lot of work that we've had to collaborate with National Park Service, Army Corps of Engineers, Maryland Department of the Environment. There's just a lot of permitting. This project has been an eye-opening experience from start to where we are now. But of course, all necessary because of the flood control, the water quality, etc. So with the work that we've done right now, we've actually only spent out of that $8 million, $477,000. And of course, I said the breakdown of all that is on that slide. Through the help of Ecologics and Kim and myself and staff, we've also applied for a lot of money. We've actually applied for $26 million. 26 million. And of course, we haven't gotten all that money. Again, Cece, her firm has been wonderful in applying for all these grants. They've got the technical expertise that we needed to apply for grants, like the NOAA grant. They applied through the county. It was in the county's name because we weren't eligible to qualify. The Local Economy Lab Just Transition Fund. We applied for that. We didn't get that. However, they had suggested other funding that we're going to apply for. But, you know, we told the state of Maryland from the very beginning that we would try to be as less burden on the state as we could. So that's why we are applying for all these funds. Next slide. Again, the future, although we put out the RFP for sediment testing, it came way over the amount that we originally anticipated. We have a total, well, right now of only $90,000. We were just notified that, again, through Senator Van Hollen and Senator also Brooks, we were approved, at least through House appropriations, for another $500,000 for the sediment testing. But, and that's great news, but it, I guess, has to be approved through the federal budget process. So we're crossing our fingers with all that. But the sediment testing, the low bid came in at $900,000 and the high bid came in at $3 million. So, yeah, so there's that. Trail construction and parking lots, again, we did award that bid and that's going on right now. I believe they're at the 30% mark for the trails. Cece, do you want to talk about a little bit about where we are with the engineering since you've been involved in the state highway, just kind of, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I don't know if this is the best time to
Sure.
talk about that.
Sure, so the federal appropriation came through the Federal Highway Administration, and that moved to the State Highway Administration. So the State Highway Administration is overseeing, using those funds, and for those funds to be used, the state had to complete a design for the trails. And so there was some work on designing the trails done in the preliminary engineering report that CEC did and finished last year. It wasn't quite to the 30% design mark. So Canal Place put out an RFP for trails design in early 2025. The selected firm is Gwynn, Dotson and Foreman, also known as GDF. The city of Cumberland agreed to oversee the contract. Initially, it's been Bobby Smith, and that's moving to John DeFonza now, also through the city. GD&F are nearing completion of the 30% design. At every stage of the design process, when you get to 30%, 60%, 90%, 100%, it has to go back to SHA for 30 days. They have to make comments, maybe request edits or changes, and then you incorporate those into the next phase. So they're just about finished with 30% design. They said they were going to get it out by the end of this month, which would be just 2 more days from now, so we'll see. It is a little bit delayed. We had hoped for it by the end of June, but they ran into some issues with getting approval for a geotechnical sampling plan from the Corps of Engineers. And we just got the Corps' comments back on the plan, but meanwhile, GDF said they're moving forward with design and they'll just catch up with the geotechnical samples for 60%. They can still get a 30% design completed without the geotech. So we're on a fairly tight timeline for it because the grant, the earmark from SHA requires that design be at 100% and with plan specs and engineering documents prepared and the state certifying the funds and project going out to bid by this winter or early spring. And with all of that, then SHA can go to Federal Highway and say, the state's met all of their commitments. They're saying that the design is done, they've got a bidder through their competitive bidding process, and they've certified the funding. So it doesn't mean the work actually has to get started then, but those are the state's obligations in order for the funding to actually be awarded. The deadline for that is July 1 next year. So we're pushing to have it all completed with the plan specs engineering and the bidding done by like January. So we have an 8-week bid period and then everything is finished in the spring. So that's where we are right now. Is that good? Anything else?
No, I think that's good. And I just want to add, here's the other thing. I mean, we talk about this project. It has been a great partnership between Allegheny County and the city of Cumberland and Canal Place, because anytime we get into a jam, I can pick up the phone and, this is to you, Ray. Bobby Smith, I can't say enough about him and his expertise, and, Bobby's way has really helped us and saved us some money with, overseeing the engineering. And thank you for allowing John DeFonso to step in, because I know Bobby's super busy. And the same with the funding, when we needed additional funding because we found out we needed water lockers. The county approved money, the city approved money. Anytime I have any issues with grants, or I call Bill or Jeff Barkley and Ashley, I mean, it's been a team effort. And I mean, everybody's just been so involved that, because it's a great project. So thank you guys for all that, and the same with Robin, and, he's probably sick of hearing from me, but, the Senator's office, all of them have been great with this project. The next thing I wanted to talk about, in the future is the engineering and design for the dam removal. That, that is a big undertaking. And we have applied all these NO grants and everything that you see. We've been trying to find money for dam removal. And I guess it's just been hard because, there's been flooding events that really need the bigger money for the bigger picture. So we've been having trouble finding federal money. So we spoke to the capital budget people. We just had that conversation, I guess, last week, 2 weeks ago. Because that's the one thing that we do believe we're going to need capital budget money for. The capital budget process has been interesting. We kind of jumped in. Usually with state capital budget money, they have a priority list and you need to get in like 10 years in advance, and we jumped in right in the middle of a cycle. And the state's been great about it, but with all the budgetary issues that the state's having, we might be looking at some delay in funding. So again, I'm gonna ask Cece to explain a little bit about what we've been dealing with capital budget. I mean, her group, Cece has put together what's called a facilities plan and all the necessary, 30-some pages of detail, not including the worksheet that she's worked with capital budget people doing, and Nicole. They've been all working together, so Cece.
Okay, so Canal Place has been working with the Department of Budget and Management, which develops a state capital budget plan. And as Dee Dee said, they are working on a 5-year period, rolling 5-year period. And because of the federal appropriation coming when it did, we kind of had to play catch up, because in order for the state to use that money, they have to pay first and then get reimbursed by the federal government. So they need that funding source to pay the bills up front so that they can get reimbursed. Plus they have their own $1.5 million cost share. So around last summer, I think, we started working with DBM to prepare, it's called a CEDIS, CEW, series of worksheets that define the budget that is needed for a capital project. They define why the state should have the capital project, what benefits it has for the state. It has a lot of escalators for inflation, cost of living type things. It is complicated, and then you also have to put together a design plan for your project, for what it is you're going to build with the capital funding. And that's got a set format that it has to be in, and it's pretty long. It's a lot of writing. So first we did the interconnected spreadsheets for the construction and design costs, entered that into the Department of Budget and Management's online system that requests funding for all these projects. So you request the funding, and then I think they said in December of each year, they decide which projects they're actually going to accept and fund for the fiscal year, the state fiscal year that starts July 1. So we did our first submittal, which was for the funding for the trails. And that was, like I said, we started working on it last summer, and it was approved in February. So we went back and forth quite a bit. It's a little unusual to have to describe everything for a project that isn't built yet and is only to 30% design. So they want to know what materials you're going to be using and how much of the materials and how much they cost and how many feet of trails, and we ended up needing to get a little more work done by the engineers to be able to even put that down. But they did accept it, and we also wrote the, it's called Part 1, Part 2 Design, Facilities Master Design Plan. That describes the project, the need for the project, the schedule for the project, environmental permitting, long-term maintenance. It's got photographs and maps and lists of people you have to coordinate with, and it ended up being about 34 pages plus 12 attachments. And we went back and forth a little bit with that, and then they also accepted that. So we're pretty good for the trails portion of the project. And then we started talking with them about the next parts of the project. And at the same time, we were applying for these different grants. A lot of them had to do with dam removal and the separate parts of the project, not the trails, and not the water park, because most places that are going to give you money for dam removal, for habitat creation or water quality improvement or resiliency and flood control aren't going to want to fund a water park at the same time. So we split out the costs for dam removal, and associated with that is the sediment characterization and management of the sediment and relocation of the C&O Canal water intake. So since we've already kind of been doing that for these grant applications, when we talked to DBM, and they were also suggesting that funding for the project be phased. So phase 1 was then going to be the trails, which was already approved. Phase 2 will be the dam removal and the associated elements of the project there. And phase 3 will be the water park. So we then started working just a few months ago on phase 2, the sediment management and characterization, dam removal, and C&O Canal water intake. And we just got finished submitting our first cut to them, and we had a formal budget hearing with DBM, and also got them the Part 1, Part 2 design document. And while I was down in the parking lot, Daniel from DBM called, and he said he has a couple of changes, and he wants to set up a meeting to talk about that for phase 2, and he wants submittal of the water park, phase 3, to CPW. So, and he said it's possible that they'll be funded together. So, that sounded good.
Phases 2 and 3, phases
Yeah.
2 and 3.
Yeah, so we won't know till we actually talk to him, but I kind of thought that sounded like good news. Hard to know, but it sounded good. So, so that's the latest on that one. So, we asked for inclusion of phase 1 and 2 in the fiscal year, because we're already in fiscal year 26. We asked for inclusion in the fiscal year 27 budget for the trails and for dam removal, sediment characterization, all that in fiscal year 28. And so he said we'll talk about timing when we have the meeting next week for phase 2 and 3, but they might be together. So, so that's what I have. Any questions on that?
Is the PER open to the public?
The preliminary engineering report? I think so. Is it? I don't know why not.
I'm just supposed to read it.
Okay, but I guess that's up to you. It could go up on your
No,
website.
yeah,
Should be public.
is
might
it on our
already be up.
website? I thought it was on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Laura, I can also, we can get you.
Send you a link.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all,
Yeah.
open to the,
Just, they did do a little more work on the water side than the land side, which is why we have to kind of do a little catch up on the 30% design.
Okay.
But, we had enough that we could put in the funding request. And we told the state, like Dee Dee said, we're asking you for everything that would be needed to complete each of these phases, but we're also working really hard not to be a burden to the state and get as much as we can through grants or other funding sources. So, but if they do fund it, then it would cover it.
Yeah, that meeting that CC referenced with the capital budget folks, I was able to hop on that call. It was 2 weeks ago tomorrow. There were a lot of people on that meeting, a lot of questions. And quite frankly, the tenor, I think, was, they were having budget woes in the state of Maryland. It's gonna be a heavy lift. So, and I think we all knew that it was, but that's great news that they're asking, for a meeting, a follow-up meeting to talk
Right.
about combining the two phases. So thank you for that report. A couple of things I wanted to say. First of all, I want to echo what Dee Dee said about the support that the city of Cumberland, in particular Bobby Smith, has provided. And wonderful to have John DeFonso, who, when I served on the Canal Place Authority Board 20-some years ago, was the engineer. He was great in those early stages of that. So we could not do this and be where we are without the city of Cumberland being a primary partner. So I'm going to thank you, Mayor, for that. One of the things, and I had a chance to meet with Bobby Smith. I can understand why everyone sings his praises because he's a super smart guy. But one of the things I wanted to put out there, because it hasn't really been talked about, it's now right in my head, is that the intake that is required for the canal portion has been somehow lost as we talk about the river park. But it is the original vision for Canal Place is rewatering the canal. And one of the things that Bobby said that really struck me is that because it is the Army Corps flood control project, and that the city, in their wisdom, is doing this combined sewer overflow project, that the rewatering of the canal is not going to cost Allegheny County anything to do. And that's because you've got someone like Bobby Smith, who's really smart, and John DeFonso, and the mayor and city council has been very supportive. And we haven't lost sight of that vision. So as we talk about, I know we're focused a lot on the river park, as we should be, but that rewatering is a principal piece. It is this whole thing. And if you think about the trails that are now going to be there, that augment what's already exists in terms of the bicycling that is, internationally recognized as one of the finest bike paths in the world, a river park and a rewatering, the original concept of exploring and, illuminating the great history that we have here. It is, I can't think of a better project. I just really can't think of a better project. And we're right here. So one of the things I'd like to put out there for, input from the board, this is not unfamiliar to me, working on a highway project where you have federal, state, and local. It's kind of in my DNA, working through the Greater Cumberland Committee. We actually built a road with help from our primary federal partners, is we really need support from everyone. We need our federal, our congressional delegation, we need our Western Maryland delegation, we need our mayor and city council, we need our county commissioners. And I would suggest that we need letters of support from all of those entities, particularly directed right now to influence this capital budget process. I think that's what we need. That's just my own experience. And I'd like to open it up for some conversation among the board members.
I think you're right. All you need to do is just tell me which grant opportunities, and keep me informed, because, I'm going to Annapolis Friday, and I'll be going again and later in August and in September, and I have meetings with some of these same people, and honestly, when I'm there, I go in with what the city is asking. I also talk about the river park, and I also talk about Western Virginia Railroad and the Allegheny Museum, other things that when you're the mayor, you get to be on the board of. But, so keep me in the loop on all of the requests and sort of where we are, and every once in a while I need a little training, okay? I switch red box cars from blue box cars, okay? So, about which person in which department to talk to, and I'll be there and do it. When it comes to letters of support, send me a draft, and Allison will turn it back over to you probably within a half an hour. If you give us a draft, we can turn it over in a half hour. If you ask me to write it, it'll be like 2 weeks, but I turn it over to Allison and get it back in a day. But if for some reason I'm not getting something back to you, pester me a little bit, because I get pulled in a lot of different directions. So, but any kind of support you need from the city for letters of support or conversations with, we'll do that always.
Very good, thank you. Yeah.
And Bill will do the same from the county.
Yeah, we'll get the letter of support. I do have a meeting set up with the governor's staff at NOCA conference, which is in a couple of weeks in Ocean City. So it's on my list of discussion topics with the governor's staff. But I do have a meeting set up with them on that.
Very good.
See behind me. What?
Thank you. Business organizations too. I'm actually going to do a presentation to the Greater Cumberland Committee this fall with Dee Dee. She doesn't know about that yet, but now she does. And, they represent a lot of voters. It's my experience that voters are great influencers of how we spend our money. So our intention is to get the chamber to support it and any other business organizations. So any other comments? This is a big deal.
I just want to make a suggestion. My suggestion would be that as we go into budgeting season and these conversations, I think it'd be very advantageous of us to revisit the brochure or create a one-pager document. When Bill's out or Mayor Morris is out or any of us are out, it would be nice that we're all talking off of the same sheet and bullet points. And I can tell you from just experience myself in advocacy that just a one-on-one conversation with some of these decision makers isn't enough for them to comprehend, because they're also getting hit from various directions. So I think being able to leave them a touch point, if we could maybe work on that,
Yeah.
would be beneficial.
Great idea, thank you.
Yeah.
That's an excellent idea, yeah. Any other thoughts?
Do we have any idea when we'll actually get a shovel in the ground? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's my experience is once you get a shovel in the ground, it's hard to pull back from it. But in the planning phases, I worry about the budget, so there is a process to.
I think the key thing you're really looking at is the dam. The day you start the dam removal, that's the shovel in the ground. It is, that's probably what matters in this case. Is once that dam starts going, the rest of it is sort of happen. I think you're right, but I don't know we got a date yet.
Well, for the trails, some of the trail work and parking lot work, actual construction could begin next spring, next summer. What I don't want to do is, build a trail and then have to tear it up because of the dam removal, and that's why, we've been working with the city and, in support with the National Park Service with like the Riverside Trail, so when the pipe goes in and the CSO goes away, that we're not tearing up an existing trail. But that's our hope for the trail. Yeah, you're right, Mayor, the dam, that'll be a big deal. And of course, I'd like to have that out sooner than later.
Well, just following up on Ashley's suggestion, these big projects have story points, and while the tutorial today got into some of the weeds that I think everyone needed to know, I think we could pick out some of the more public pieces, kind of like the shovel in the ground, that, when there's work on the trail, or when, I think we need to create the story and the buzz around this. And, I certainly welcome Ashley in particular, because she has such a sense about what people relate to in a public image perspective. But I think we need to tell the story. I watched, there's a great YouTube on the March 2024 where they had that public meeting, and you spoke, and Bobby Smith spoke, and Dee Dee spoke, and but we haven't had any public, discussion or elevated conversation about it since then. So I think we, maybe what we can ask staff to do is think about and bring back to the board, what do you think about this, at one of our future meetings, to kind of get the buzz going about this project. So we need, there was a lot of support for it when the concept was discussed, but it's been pretty quiet. And if this is going to be built, we have to have the public supporting it being built, and, letters of support, and just the public in general saying, yes, I want my kids to go in the river. So, all right. Anything else on this timeline?
Well, I guess Cece talked to Daniel about, we had on here about the, some of the boating access and the water features, so that's great news. Of course, we, anticipated the park opening in 2029. I'm still crossing my fingers for it, but, I know permitting's a big thing. The sediment testing, if we get that done, not sure what all that's gonna involve, so it's a process, and people need to be patient. I would let the process work. But I just see the bigger picture, and I'm glad Laura's here today, because my goal is, and my thought has always been, take your bike on the train, ride to Frostburg, go down, ride your bike down through Westernport, get in your kayak, because the North Branch Water Trail starts there, float the Potomac River all the way back down to Cumberland. My God. Like, how many municipalities does that help? How many people would come to do something like that? And you've got Historic City Center going on. I think things are like booming right now, and I don't want to lose that momentum. And so I think support and seeing that bigger picture, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Well, of course, and dovetailing with that is the whole idea that we're enhancing the heritage area that will manage, this board will manage, to include all of Allegheny County. So it's all these things lining up right now. So.
And there'll be heritage area funding once it expands countywide to do more of these projects. So it's all happening, together, which is a great thing.
Good idea, good thought. Thank you, Ashley, for your suggestion. Any other thoughts? Mayor, thank you for your support as always. And all right. Well, thank you again to the staff for putting that together. I hope it was helpful. I think at this point, we will revisit this at future board meetings in terms of where we are right now and give you updates on that. I'm looking forward to a follow-up meeting with Daniel. Hopefully it's really good news that we share with you at our September meeting. But I think that because it's such a pivotal part of what we're working on as an authority, that you need to be updated on where the snags are, where the obstacles are, where the celebrations are, because we're all in this together. This is 9 board members advancing, a heritage area that includes a river park. It's pretty extraordinary. So, and a rewatering. The original idea. All right. I know we're got a lot on this agenda, so I appreciate you all kind of paying attention for an extended period of time. We do have some new business items, ratification of the Tim Martin home improvement contract. Dee Dee, I'm turn it over to you or to Nicole.
You wanna?
Oh, sure. So on June 30th of this year, Tim Martin's contract ran out. Prior to that, we put out an RFP, asking for bidders. We only had Tim, but he's been doing it, so, we feel confident in his work, and, I did send you all an email that said, what we came with, the price and everything, so we did have 4 people come back saying that they voted in the affirmative for it, which is enough to carry motion, but we need to have it ratified for officiality. So I'm just asking if we can officially approve that.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve that contract.
So moved.
Michael Mudge, is there a second?
Second.
Brad? Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, very good, thank you. The fiscal year 26 MHAA project grants, Dee Dee?
Great, the Maryland Heritage Area Authority did approve, fiscal year 26 grants for us. We got a $100,000 management grant. We received a $25,000 marketing grant, which will be partnering with Allegheny County Tourism. We received a $25,000 block grant, which that's our mini grant program. And then we applied for the Heritage Area Countywide Interpreter Plan because we're hoping to get the expansion approved in January. So that was a $50,000 grant. And then the Allegheny County Historical Society, they received a Heritage Area grant in the amount of $10,000. And again, these are statewide projects. They were selected from a statewide grants panel that the Maryland Heritage Area appoints. We do have input on some of the local projects, but that was the result. So we're very happy about that.
Any questions on that? All right. And the Maryland 250 project, I asked Dee Dee if we could just update the board on this. I think Kim did a great job. I hooked into the call about this, kind of the introductory call last week. Kim chaired that. It's a really interesting concept. So Kim, you want to just give us what's going on there?
So we, on July 22nd, we held a community discussion to discuss the Maryland 250 and how we could play a role with that. We are basically partnering with the Allegheny Tourism Office to coordinate that. We had 13 of our partners on the call, and we hosted Michelle Johnson, who's the executive director for the Maryland 250 Commission. She shared grant information, resources, background on what the commission was designed to do. And then we presented on behalf of Allegheny County how we wanted to approach it, which Allegheny County Tourism is going to provide a landing page for the Maryland 250 that we can then link to. They kind of already have that on lock that with their museum week, so they are gonna take care of doing that for us. And then, we, just discussed resources and grant information and provided links and things for our partners to be able to tap into. And then we did also announce that we intend to host a art photo contest here at Canal Place, which we will work with the Allegheny County public school system to implement that. And then we will host, a big viewing of that in June of 2026, which I can't believe it's in 2026. But and so we will continue to have meetings, possibly quarterly or every other month, just to check in with partners, see where we are, encourage them to be sharing their information, we are basically deferring to the Maryland 250 to approve our events and programming, and then we basically will adopt it on our end. And so, well, I should say on Ashley's end because it's going to be on their website, but we will link to that. So there's one collective place for people to go. We can refer everybody to that landing page. So that's where we are with that.
May I add something?
Yes.
I just want to add for the record that the Maryland 250 Commission is governor appointed. It has its own budget, it has its own staff, it has its own resources, and they've done phenomenal work to really create a competitive edge. Everybody will be celebrating the 250th next year from a state to destination level. And so we are really encouraging any places in our county, any programmers to register. It's very simple. I think it's like 3 questions, isn't it, Kim? It's very simple.
Yes. Yes.
Through the commission first for vetting, and then we will augment those places. I think currently there's only 3 places in the county that are listed.
Right.
So it's very easy and it's free to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So if you know anybody, you're working with anybody, send them to the Maryland 250 Commission page, because that's where we will go to get the information for the Allegheny landing page. So
This is America's Big Birthday
right.
celebration. And
Yeah, and there's been a tremendous amount of, well, Ashley just said, tremendous amount of resources and money was dumped into it. So, we obviously want to be a part of that, and Heritage Area is a good fit to lead that. So that's what we are.
Thank you, Ashley and Kim. Good part of that. Any questions on that? All right, I think that concludes the business of the authority, but I would like to open it up to the public for any comments or questions, or what do I have?
We called that on at the last minute. I'm sorry, I don't even know if you have that on your.
I know, well, I do on the updated one, but, okay, so, pardon me, we have a fiscal year 26 mini grant. Kim? Yeah. Sorry about that.
So very recently, we had a mini grant submission from the Masonic Temple. They have requested $5,000 in funding to support, and I probably will say this wrong, McMillan, okay, well, there's an extra I in there just for fun. Defense. McMillan Pipe Band to perform during Heritage Days 2025, so this year. We previously funded this same expense for them last year. So last year was the first year they performed. It was very well received. So they are partnering with Historical Society. They will have a match of cash from Historical Society and then in-kind match to provide their full match on that. So we're asking for an approval for a $5,000 mini grant for Masonic Temple.
That's not your band, right?
It's not mine.
Oh, yeah, there you go. No, it is, just checking.
Was that gonna, influence your vote, Ray?
Yeah, if it's his band, the answer is no.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve that request.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Mayor, is there a second to the motion?
Speak up, Steve.
Brad, second. Any questions? All in favor of approving that grant request, say aye. Opposed? All right. Okay, that's it, right? Okay, so, comments, questions from the public? We would entertain those, we welcome those.
Well, I guess the first thing I'll say is thank you for approving the grant. We're very excited to have Macmillan returning again this year. We have changed the schedule a bit. Last year, we had the performance weekend a little early in the day, so it's going to be near the end of the activities on Saturday, 4 o'clock, I think is the performance at the temple. They'll still be doing a workshop at the Gordon Roberts house and some, I guess well, surprised if I say some pop-up performances on the street during the festival, but the main concert will be at the Masonic Temple at 4 o'clock. Thank you for your support. We hope you'll come join us. It'll be another great time. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments, thoughts?
I will add, we are gonna have a car show here for Heritage Days. So there's the Rail Festival on, there's Heritage Days, there's gonna be a car show here.
Okay.
It's gonna be a lot. Let one down.
That was another
Very
3 AM
good.
challenge that morning here.
Yes.
But I'll be in Frostburg, I'm seeing you this Saturday.
All right, we will do that. Very good. All right. Well, thank you for all the members of the public that came and heard our presentation, especially on River Park. For those of you on Zoom, thank you, Tom, thank you, Doug, thank you, Michael, thank you for joining us. And again, welcome, Ed. We hope to see you back soon. And with all that, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Stu made a motion. Is there a second?
So moved. There we go.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Appreciate your.
Steve has a